meditation. So I invite you to take a moment to get comfortable. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze if that's comfortable for you. And I hear some of you already doing it, but let's take a nice deep inhale together. Completely filling your lungs. And exhale. And as we rest in this space, I want to invite you to hold your hands palms up. And imagine a smooth pebble in your hands. Feel its smoothness, its coolness as you run your fingers and your thumbs along it. Feel the weight of that rock or that pebble in your hands. And now I want to invite you to imagine dropping that pebble into a pool of water and watching it sink slowly down to the bottom. And watching that at the surface, it may move with the waves and the wind. But as that pebble drops deeper and deeper and deeper, there is a stillness as it comes to rest on the bottom. You are that pebble, sinking deeper into that stillness, that peace and that calmness. And so I invite you to rest there for a moment. And as we rest in this space of peace and calmness, we are reminded that this peace is accessible to us no matter where we are. That at any moment we can be that pebble, seeking beneath the waves to find that place of stillness. Let's breathe that in and take another deep breath. And let it go. As we begin to come back to this space in this moment, beginning to move our body, flex our hands and our fingers and our ankles and our neck. And feel that peace that we've created together radiate through your whole being as you come back to right here and right now. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Good morning. So today is the second Sunday in Advent, and the traditional theme is peace. And so I knew I wanted to do something peace related. And what really stood out to me was this saying in the Bible, peace be still. And it comes from a Jesus story in the Gospel of Mark. So in this story, Jesus has just finished preaching, And he tells his disciples, let's get on the boats and go across the sea to the other side. And so they load onto the boats, and Jesus falls right asleep because preaching takes a lot out of you. So he falls asleep, and they're traveling across the sea when a big windstorm comes. And you can imagine on a sea in a tiny boat, there's these big waves, and the wind's rocking, and maybe the boat's even taking on water. And the disciples are, to put it plainly, they are freaking out. They wake up Jesus, and this is what it says. They woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" Think about the drama, right? We're all going to die. Okay, so they wake him up, and it says, and Jesus, waking up, he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." The wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. So what stood out to me most about this verse was actually the punctuation. Jacob, do I have that slide in there so you guys can see it? So in this verse, it's peace, exclamation point. Be still, exclamation point. So when I think about peace, I think about calmness, right? I think peace, be still. But that's not what that says. This says peace, be still. It struck me because I kind of thought, have you ever been with somebody who's like really worked up about something? You know, they're really frustrated, they get loud. And have you ever tried telling them, calm down? I don't think in all of human history, saying calm down to somebody has ever calmed them down, right? Calm down, exclamation point. And so I thought that's interesting. Peace, exclamation point, be still. So I got curious about that, and so I went deeper with this verse and did some studying on it. Would you like to hear what I found out? Okay, that's good, because that's what I plan to talk about. All right, first let's talk about some of the metaphysics. In Unity, we don't take the Bible literally. We look deeper under the surface meaning to see what this has in store for me. What's the lesson here for me today? So a windstorm, a storm on the sea, metaphysically, represents that stuff that just kind of flies into your life out of nowhere and turns everything upside down. You know what I'm talking about? Charles Fillmore says that storms are when we're freaking out, like the disciples were, because we're identified with what he called sense consciousness, which sense consciousness means what we can see with our five senses. It's the stuff that's temporary, that's on the earthly plane, in contrast to Christ consciousness, which is when we're identified with the truth of who we are, the permanent, unchanging self. So the storm is about getting caught up in the temporary and the transient stuff that happens in our life. Okay, so then there's the sea. So water, you know, conforms to whatever vessel we put it in, right? If I take water and I put it in a glass, it's the shape of a glass. If I put it in a tub, it's the shape of a tub. So water then metaphysically represents all of the unformed possibilities that exist in divine potential, but aren't yet showing up on the earthly plane. So water is our divine potential, all of the divine potential that is yet to be expressed. So experiencing a storm on the sea, there's all of this stuff that's happening, all this stuff that's going on that's scaring you, but underneath that is the divine truth. And just like in that pebble meditation, if you take a body of water, no matter what's going on the surface, those huge waves and all that wind and all that stuff going on, if you go deep enough, there is calmness and there is stillness. So then Jesus says peace. And what peace means is it is the harmony and tranquility that comes from being identified with the truth of who you are, with your spiritual self. So right here in this passage, we have this contrast between the busyness, the scariness, the, oh no, what's going to happen? We're all going to die of the storm. And then the stillness that is always there waiting to be called out. So this leads me back to the exclamation points. Peace, exclamation point, be still. Jesus commanded peace. Jesus, of course, representing that Christ consciousness that dwells in each of us. He commanded peace. He was able to do that because he was calling up that which was already inside him. That divine peace, that ever-abiding well of stillness inside us that we can access. By declaring peace, be still, he wasn't changing the outer circumstances, but calling up his own divine power. Peace, I think, relates to our power of love, which is also harmony, peace and harmony, and also our power of order, which in another word is said balance. That harmony and balance is what brings peace. So sometimes we find ourselves living in tumultuous times, don't we? We're seeing the storms in our lives. And whether it's a tumultuous time in our own personal life because of something we have going on, or maybe it's something a friend or a family member is going through that we just hurt for them or have to assist them with. Tumultuous times in our economy or politically or globally. I mean, in my lifetime, it feels like collectively we've gone in and out of tumultuous times many times. And so for those of you who are older than me, probably have seen that even more. And I think it's important to acknowledge that there is real suffering going on in our world. And yet, at the same time, there is also an ever-abiding, bottomless, infinite well of peace inside you. So today I want to talk about how we can be the calm in that storm, how we can be the light in the darkness, and how we can be the peace that we want to see in the world. It's been said that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I have some questions for you to reflect on. How do you do disagreement? With a friend, with a coworker, with a family member? How do you do disagreement? Do you do it with love and peace? Or do you do it with bitterness, anger, a need to be right? How do you deal with health challenges? Do you deal with health challenges with fear or with peace of mind? With anger at your body for failing you, or with love for all the ways your body has supported you? In Unity, we say that life happens from the inside out, that our outer conditions are a reflection of our inner conditions. And so when we talk about peace, I think a lot of times we're looking for an outer display of peace, when really the peace needs to come from within. Peace is not an effect, an outcome. Peace is the cause of so many wonderful, harmonious things. There's things that we call peace that aren't really peace when we're talking about spiritual, true peace. For example, let's talk about peace treaties. The Treaty of Paris, the Peace Treaty of Paris, was the one that ended the Revolutionary War when the U.S. became a country and got their independence from Britain. So it was called a peace treaty, but there was so much bitterness between the colonists, the new U.S., and Great Britain. There was bitterness between Great Britain and France because they were mad that France helped us. Great Britain actually refused to withdraw their troops, even though we had a peace treaty, and actually captured Americans and enlisted them into military service. So we called it a peace treaty, but it was the outcome of peace without the inner peace, true peace. Then there was the peace treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I. And a lot of historians now say that the reparations that were in that peace treaty is part of what led to the rise of the Nazi Party and Hitler in World War II. So we called it a peace treaty, but it wasn't real peace. Because real peace is not an effect. It's not something you sign, it's not something you agree to. Real peace is something that you conjure up from within you and let it ripple out into the world. So let's talk about these storms, because nothing takes our peace away from us like a big storm, right? You ever find yourself feeling like those disciples saying, we're all gonna die? How do you find peace in the midst of a storm? I think one of the storms that we run into is worry and anxiety. You know, we live in such an interesting time where we have near instant access to everything that is going on all around the world. I mean, just this morning you can get near live updates of what's going on in Syria and in Israel and Palestine and across our country and across the world. Our brains are not equipped, they are not evolved to handle all of the information of all of the storms going on throughout the planet all of the time. Our brains aren't equipped for that. They don't know how to handle that. And so all of this information we have, all of these storms that we can see now, it can lead to heightened stress and anxiety, to empathy fatigue, and it can even prevent us from actually engaging with the world that's right here, right now in front of us. We can get frozen and not do anything at all because we're so overwhelmed by the storm. You've heard of fight or flight? So when our body and our brain gets panicked, when it senses a threat, it goes into either fight, flight, or freeze. So when we go into fight, flight, or freeze, when we sense a threat, it doesn't matter if that threat is a real-life tiger in front of me or an email that I have to send that's stressing me out. It doesn't matter what the threat is, our body reacts the same, getting pumped full of cortisol and other hormones that amp up our body and put us into this fight, flight, or freeze where we're making really bad decisions because the decision-making part of our brain is turned off and we're all emotion. Quite a storm, if you ask me. And yet underneath that storm, underneath worry and anxiety, is the stillness and the peace that is always yours, that you can claim through your power of love, your power of order, by tuning back into your breath. The breath that brings stillness, the breath that brings peace up from inside of you in the face of any storm. Another storm I think we run across in our lives is other people. Anybody have a negative Nancy or a pessimistic Peter in your life? Yeah, me too. And I will say that I have somebody who is very dear to me, but let me just say that they have a talent for finding something to be upset about in every situation. Now, for me personally, I tend to be a bit of an optimist. It's been hard work to get to optimism, and so it's something I really appreciate about myself. That no matter what challenge is going on, I like to imagine and envision the best and perfect outcome. I like to put my faith in spirit, and instead of worrying about things that I can't control, these disasters, these storms that may happen, well, if it's out of my control, it's out of my control, so why am I going to worry about it, right? Either it'll happen or it won't. That's my choice. That's the way I choose to live, and it works for me. I feel like my life's a lot easier when I'm not stressing out about that, when I have optimism. But not everybody makes that choice. Not everybody feels the same way. And so what I find is that sometimes I want to fix other people. You know how much less stress you'd be if you were just a little bit more optimistic? Maybe if you tried gratitude instead of complaining all the time, things would work out better for you. Is anybody else? Am I the only one who sometimes wants to do this, right? And it's out of love, I think, right? I want to share what I've learned. I want to help you. But that's kind of like a peace treaty that doesn't really come from peace. I call it love, but yet true love, true peace is acceptance. And I do have to say that this person has taught me more about finding my peace and being able to hold on to my peace in the midst of their storm. I have learned more from that relationship than my friends who are optimists just like me. I think sometimes those challenging people in our lives that bring about those storms are there to help us grow and help us learn that we don't have to get swept up into their hurricane. That the peace comes from within and we are always in control of that. We always have access to it, no matter what is going on out there. Viktor Frankl is a psychiatrist who was a survivor of the Auschwitz death camp in World War II. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read it? If you haven't, absolute must read. So good. In it, he says, everything can be taken except the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You don't need them to change. You don't need the situation to go away. You don't need this to be fixed or this to be healed to choose peace right now. Everything can be taken, except the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. So peace is not the outcome, it's the cause of so many amazing things. Peace is the cause of harmony within our body. If I have peace within and I express that peace to my body will reflect that peace, that love, that harmony, that balance. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore has a healing story that Unity people love to tell. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry, but maybe this is one of your first times hearing it. So when Myrtle first discovered the teachings that would then grow into the Unity movement and started reflecting on them, she had just been diagnosed with tuberculosis, which at the time was a death sentence. They gave her maybe a couple years to live. She wouldn't live to see her 40th birthday, is what they told her. But Myrtle was having a change in consciousness. She was finding this divine power within herself, starting to learn that I am a child of God and therefore I do not inherit sickness. I inherit wholeness. And so she prayed daily, affirming life and vitality, harmony and order throughout her entire body. The other thing she did was thank her body for all of its service to her over her life thus far. And she asked her body for forgiveness for any thoughts she had had about it, being sick or not good enough or not right, not pretty enough, not shaped the right way. So she thanked her body and asked it for forgiveness. She replaced her fear and her doubt with faith in her innate wholeness. She cultivated gratitude for her growing health even when it wasn't showing up yet. Doing that daily for 2 years, and Myrtle Fillmore was cured of tuberculosis. Peace within, peace without. Cultivating peace within can bring harmony to our relationships. When you are in that state of peace, when you are accessing that limitless well, you show up better in your relationships. You're not so worried about being right or getting what you need or making somebody conform to your vision of them. We tend to approach people better, love people better, accept people better when we're at peace with ourselves. Peace within can also bring harmony to our relationship with ourselves. In my experience, this has been more difficult than showing love to others, has been showing love to myself. But having peace within allows us to have the ability to give ourselves grace, to give ourselves kindness and compassion. Cultivating peace within allows us to be in harmony with our environment, to not take from Mother Earth more than we give back, to make good choices about what we consume and what we eat and what we do, to be in harmony and balance. Charles Fillmore, the other co-founder of Unity, also said that peace within could make you more fashionable. He says this spiritual law is operative in food and clothing. If we think about peace, our taste in material things will change. We shall desire the purest foods, and there will be more harmony in the colors we choose to wear. So there you go. So remember, what we think, what we feel, what we put our energy into, it manifests in our reality, from within out. So are we working on cultivating peace within and out? Or are we caught up in the storm of worry, anxiety, frustration? My friend and fellow minister, Reverend Stacy Macris Ross, says worry is as much a prayer as hope is. Peace is a choice. Hope is a choice. So to see peace in our world, when we look out and we're tired of seeing all of the storms, to see peace in our world, it starts within. It starts with knowing that limitless well of the divine, that sweet, sweet stillness that exists within you that you can call forth. To become intimately acquainted with that stillness of your Christ self within. That's where it starts. And then we affirm inner peace by calling upon our powers of love and of order. I see and I manifest love in my life. I see and I manifest order and balance in all that I say, all that I think, all that I do, using our meditations, our affirmations, using our tools to not just believe in peace, not just say, oh, that sounds good, but to cultivate it within us. Because healing what's within you, bringing peace out from within you, can have ripple effects that you will never know, that can heal and transform the world one person at a time. To cultivate peace, we observe the storm. We acknowledge the fact that we've got disciples around us who are screaming and panicking, saying we're all going to die. But rather than giving in to that anxiety, we hold and we affirm and we cultivate the truth of the divine in every scenario. And like Jesus, we make a demand. Peace, exclamation point, be still. Because it's a demand we're making on us, not on the world. We're making a demand, we're making a declaration that I am peace. I choose peace. And we cultivate, especially our powers of love, the second one right here, pink of course, which means harmony, and order, green, which means balance. 2 weeks from today, on December 22nd, we're going to be going deeper into this 12 powers teaching. So love and order are two that I talked about today, but on December 22nd, we're going to be talking about all of these powers. And we'll be lighting a candle for each of them. To give you a quick synopsis, because I know not everybody's familiar with the 12 powers teaching, the 12 powers are innate spiritual gifts that every single person has access to. They actually align really well with how Charles taught them with the chakras, and they have a lot of ties to other mystical teachings. And it's a tool, it's a framework that we can use to understand when I say I want to grow spiritually, When I say I want to grow in consciousness, when I say I'm on a spiritual path, or that I want to be more Christ-like, or that I want to, whatever language you use to say I want to change, I want to heal, I want to do something. The 12 powers are our tools to be able to make that happen. And it's such a beautiful teaching, and so I want to just invite you again to join us in 2 weeks to really learn about those aspects that are within you that you have access to. And as we light each candle for the 12 powers, each candle that we light is a reminder of the light that is within you, and you, and you, and you. The light that is within all of us that can shine even in darkness. So we can be the light of the world, as Jesus said, so that we can be the calm and the stillness in all of life's storms. Peace. Be still.